Well, I can just share some specific examples that I was involved with. For 18 years, I was vice president for student services at Kenyatta College before Tom got here. But this question came up frequently and was very perplexing and very troubling, because so many of the young people, they were brought here by their parents when they were 3 or 4 years old, or sometimes even younger, basically are from here. They grew up here, graduated from our high schools. And many of them would feel like, why bother? I can't go on to college, there was no future. It was a very, very troubling situation, and still is. And unfortunately now, we've got a larger political arena in which the DREAM Act is being considered. And I believe one of the reasons the DREAM Act keeps getting postponed, delayed, tabled, etc., is because of the political picture. I do believe it will be reintroduced. I believe ultimately it will pass, and I believe it will pass because even the person most adamant against illegal immigration would agree that it makes no sense for the United States of America to let go to waste of the potential contributions that this population of students can give to the country. So I think it's just a matter of time before the DREAM Act does pass. But in the meantime, what do you do? There are ways that the colleges and universities can lawfully admit undocumented students. The question is, finding that way. And that really boils down to finding someone on the faculty or staff in the position that is familiar with that process. The last time I dealt with this at Kenyatta, we had students who were allowed to be enrolled as long as they resided with a guardian who was over the age of 18 and was a legal resident here. As long as there's a person in their family who was legal and responsible for them, they then accrued the rights of that guardian to a non-resident tuition. So we were able to take students that way. Then when it came to leave us, they wanted to go to a 4-year institution, and they had the same problem. So we were fortunate to find that there is a provision in the education code for the universities, just as the community colleges, that allow for a certain number of foreign students to be admitted into a college tuition-free, based on hardship, extenuating circumstances, or financial calamity in the home country. And so there's that little loophole that allows students to get through. Then once they get admitted under that provision, there were programs like the EOP&S programs that would help with other financial assistance. But it was varied depending on which university you went to. So you had to be very selective in which you were limited in the choices you had, but nevertheless there were those possibilities. As we move more and more into the era of technology and everything becomes computerized, sometimes these things become more complex and more difficult. So again, it's finding somebody to be your advocate and walk you through these processes. There are ways, as Sharifa said, there are ways to make this happen. These are not things that people are going to go publicize and promote out of there. It's just not going to happen because it's a political issue. And it's going to continue to be a political issue until people understand more fully all the implications of what it means to have a large pool of young people who have brilliant potential and yet no means to realize it. So be patient, don't give up. If you know people who are in that position, I do believe we're going to see changes in that arena in the near future.
I just had one small comment, which was being a vice principal at a K-8 school, we see students come in at kinder and we see their potential early. And we don't necessarily know who's documented or who's not, but we sometimes have a good idea of who is and who isn't. And I believe that we should be a bit more responsible at the K-8 level in helping parents understand the position that they are placing some of their students in. That it is not fair to bring students and teach them that they can go to college, and then when that time comes, they're not able to pay for it, they're not able to go based on their status. So it'd be really nice to see where K-8 schools who are doing a great job like EPACS is doing of getting kids prepared to go to college, to also have parenting courses set aside for some of these parents who have students who are really on their way to college and the money's not there. So teaching them about finances, teaching them about how to get documentation in order, and teaching them about the various programs that Olivia just mentioned. So it's not just what can happen outside of school and who's able to help outside, it's also finding a way to help yourselves and help from within, from your own communities, from your parents, from your schools that you are attending from kinder through 8th grade.
Sure. You just reminded me of something else. If you know any people in this position, please advise them that they have the best chance of getting papers for you if you're under 18. If you wait until you're 18, it's almost impossible. So it's got to start, and the earlier the better. You're absolutely right in that regard. There is one other avenue. We have students who were able to get all the way through, look forward to graduating and transferring, but they couldn't, and they had a chance to become legal, but they couldn't handle the fee. It used to be $1,000, now it's like $2,000, because you have to pay a fine for entering the country illegally, then you have to pay another fee for getting the paperwork, which was really exorbitant. And we were able to find a donor who said, I'll pay half, you find someone else that did the other half. And fortunately, we were able to find a donor in the community to do that. So again, there are people who are willing to help.
Undocumented students, this is really an issue that's I've begun to worry a lot about for a couple of different reasons. And the DREAM Act, I think, ultimately, in some capacity, as part of a larger immigration reform bill, will pass. I think that is there. Right now, you can enter the university, as an AB 540 student. It's really basically, so it's not a matter of not being able to go to school if you're qualified. The issue is how you raise the money. But there's a larger issue that I think is very important, and it kind of ties in with what do you do with undocumented students. And the DREAM Act is only going to help those students, those people who graduate from high school, who go on to college, or who want to go into the military service. If you don't graduate from high school, and that was the topic of this conversation, the dropout students, if you drop out of school, there is no college, there is no military service, there is no vehicle whatsoever for you to legalize your status. That's the population that we also need to be very, very concerned about. So it's not just the DREAM Act. It is, what do you do about those students who see no hope, who find out that they're undocumented, and sometimes it happens very early, and sometimes it doesn't happen. I've become more and more aware of how many students are not finding out about their documented status until they go to get their driver's license, okay? That seems to be one of the really telltale points oftentimes of when students find out for the first time that they're undocumented. There is no hope whatsoever, almost no hope, if you haven't finished high school for legalization of ultimately legalization of your status in this country. And then also, if you get into some kind of trouble, gang-related or substance abuse-related, it even becomes almost virtually impossible that you will not legalize your status right now because of a 1996 law that penalizes you for criminality, criminal behavior, which makes null and void your status in this country. So young people, we have to worry about this from this other perspective as well, not just the DREAM Act, because it's gonna help a lot of us, it's gonna help a lot of you, but there's gonna be a whole group of other people who are very much like you, who it will not help because they will not have finished their education.